if you haven't subscribed yet, yeah, and you're watching my videos, yeah, what are you doing? Tell me. Waksugaya. I waiting here. Ila subscribe كتابتي. Welcome back to the Diary of a Single Mom. To all of you who don't know me, my name is Marian Sheikh Hussein, and to all my lovely subscribers who have been here since day dot, how are you guys doing? How are you guys doing? Mental health check, guys. How's everyone doing? I hope you guys are doing well because subhanallah, that's one thing that I'm going to be speaking about today is children's mental health and how our struggle impacts our children. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Entry Level Mums. I attended their podcast yesterday, and wallahi, Sawiya and Nasra, shout out to both of you. They were so lovely, so accommodating, and I feel like I've made two new friends. So hey, it was just amazing, like to be able to, take part in their podcast. I was just telling them the tea. I was spilling the tea, like literally. At first, I was so nervous, but I felt like I've known them my whole life. Shout out to those two girls. I pray, inshallah, that Allah grants them an abundance of success. Doing so well. They've come so far. I'm so proud of you guys. Nasra and Suwiya, I'm so proud of you guys. Thank you. So, as we know, is going to be about our struggle and how it affects our children's mental health. So, to begin this topic, I would first like to speak about my own experience and how I feel like that has impacted me in childhood and also in adulthood, because obviously I've made my own mistakes as well. I don't know if I would call them mistakes, but I would call them mistakes, but I don't know if other people looking at me would call them mistakes. Because as you know, I got married very young. I got married at the age of 18, and I got married in Somalia. So it was, especially now that I think about it, when I got married at such a young age, I can see that the decision that I made wasn't from a place of knowledge, because I was dumb as F, like when I was 18. Obviously, what did I know? And my frontal lobe hasn't even been fully developed. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I think your frontal lobe is developed at the age of, I don't know, 25 or something like that. So I had no business getting married, but I did it. I feel like, especially within the marriage, there was a lot of things that happened that broke me down mentally. And I knew that if I was to stay in that situation and to stay and with this person, that obviously it would damage my children further. Or because, as we know, if we, even though we think that children aren't affected even at such a young age, like 2 and 3, they are affected. Obviously it comes with a lot of accountability, but this is a very, very important topic to me. Like, I feel like it's really dear to my heart, especially like in our house. Obviously I've had my own mental health challenges. Me and my children, we're really open about like our emotions, and we're very open about speaking about things, because I understand how it is out there, especially in the UK. Over 270,000 children are still on the waiting list to be accepted into mental health services, guys. 270,000 every single month. That is crazy. That is an exorbitant amount of people. Like, think about it. And to just know that this is happening, especially in the UK, and is probably going to increase. It's quite, what can I say? It's quite concerning. It's quite concerning, to say the least, especially with how difficult it is currently for so many mothers out there, or so many single mothers out there who are getting their food from food banks, who are living in a small space. They have a few children. I just want to say to you guys, like, my heart honestly goes out to you. I know that there isn't a lot of sympathy or empathy for women when they have the children. Women are punished more, women are blamed more than the man. And also there are other cultural stuff as well. Like I was saying yesterday in the podcast with Nasra and Sawi, I was saying to them yesterday, I remember when I had my divorce at the age of 24, I was literally treated as if like I'm a failure, like I'm gonna fail from now on, basically. Like, and it was a very difficult situation to be in, but it was very eye-opening, because you start to see how society in itself, and the people, when I say society, I mean the people around you, I mean the structure, I mean the housing, I mean the schools, how people judge you. Like, if people see you down bad, people start to treat you like not good, and it does affect your self-esteem, and it does affect your sense of self-worth. But I just kept on going, and I taught myself to not internalize these things, because I knew that I didn't want my children to become a statistic. I didn't want my children to be in a difficult situation, an ongoing difficult situation. A part of healing your generational trauma is understanding that if you grew up in poverty and you actually continue the cycle of poverty, and you made a few mistakes, to become aware of that and to get yourself out of that situation. You can't think about the next step, and you can't think about the next thing, such as educational goals, if you're always stuck in fight or flight mode. If you're always in survival mode, you won't be able to focus on the bigger picture. And I'm not saying that, it's going to go away in one day. It's going to sometimes come back, and sometimes it's going to go away, especially if you're a parent on their own, a single father or a single mother. You will go through times where you're struggling in several different areas of your life, and it's very difficult to balance things, especially now that I am doing my assignments. Sometimes I worry, like, am I not taking care of my children's mental health enough, or like, am I even taking care of myself? Because I'm burnt out currently. And like, I have to take care of my mental health first, so that I can take care of my children's mental health. Because there is over 270,000 young children in England who are currently waiting for mental health services. Yeah. It's even more important for me to actually make sure that my children, I'm taking care of them as much as I can, and that they don't suffer as I did, and they don't go through the mental health challenges that I went through. It's just very important that we check in on our children, and we also ask them things like, how are you feeling today? You open a safe space for them to be able to come home and to be able to speak to you and say, okay, mommy, today this happened with my friend, or I'm being bullied in school. All those things, for your children to be able to come up to you and speak to you and feel free and feel safe to be able to come to you and speak to you about their most hard, like the most difficult things in their life. Children also go through hard times. I'm currently reading a book I think it's called Stress and Education. It's right there. The book is right there. The book is very, very interesting, because the author is actually highlighting the fact that children also suffer, children also go through a difficult time, children also struggle. However, the teacher's feeling in an educational setting is how the child will go onto the child, like it will literally spill onto the child. And children also go through burnout, especially when we're looking at how it is today in the education system. It's very, very challenging for many children. And imagine how it is for children who has English as an additional language, or children who have special educational needs, or children who have a difficult home life. Imagine how it is for them. Imagine for us, yeah, if we are stuck in survival mode, we can't focus on the bigger picture. It's the same for children. If they are struggling to survive at home, or they feel afraid of someone who's going to hurt them, or if they feel like I'm not getting food on the table, or anything like that, that's going to affect how they perform in school. And in turn, if you look at it down the line, they're more likely to suffer from mental health problems as well in the future, because it's like a cycle. One thing that I've learned in CBT is that if you don't have one of your things in order. So, for example, I remember my therapist basically said to me, if you are someone who's going on holiday like twice a year or every single year, right? And you're working your ass off to go on holiday every single year, yeah? Or twice a year, for example, yeah? And you're not paying your bills, or you're in rent arrears, or you're in council tax arrears. She said, do you think that that person will feel mentally like well? Because they're traveling, right? They're going to travel, they're going out with their friends, all of this, but their bills aren't paid. And I was like, no, they won't. And she was like, exactly. And she was like, that's how the CBT model is set up. She said, it's for you to set things in place for yourself and have goals, so that it makes your life a bit easier. And it doesn't really remove the trauma or remove any of it. It just helps you kind of get by with life, which I found quite interesting, because if you look at a psychological model by a guy called Abraham Maslow, it's called the hierarchy of needs, the self-actualization theory. I've always loved this theory. Like, wallahi, I remember, yeah, when I was struggling at my most, yeah, and I was homeless, guys, I used to get that pyramid out and I used to look at it, because the pyramid has a set structure of things that explains how you can get yourself into a better position in life. at the bottom is like basic needs such as food, shelter, physiological needs, like that, like things that you need in your body in order to sustain you. Basic stuff, food, home, shelter. If you don't have those things met, it's going to be very difficult for you to get to the next part of the pyramid, discussing so many parts of the pyramid where you can get yourself to a top, which is called the self-actualization part, which means that you feel content in yourself, you feel like you've gotten somewhere in life, you're okay with where you are, you have your needs met, and then you have some as well, you have extra. Maslow's hierarchy of needs was really, really helpful for me to understand how your basic needs not being met affects the next stage of your life. So, for example, if I'm constantly worrying about bills, because I've been in that stage, guys, like I've been in a stage in my life where I was worrying about bills. I've been in a stage in my life where when I was in arrears, I've been in a stage in my life where I was thinking about things that happened in the past and it kept replaying in my head. If I'm focusing on those things all the time, it will be very difficult for me to set a goal and create plans for myself that are far ahead. So maybe like a 5-year plan or an educational plan. It's very difficult that we create a structure for ourselves. If you grew up as a child without structure, without things being set for you as a foundation, such as your food was always cooked, you were always taken care of, you always loved, you were always all these things, if they haven't been met for you, it's going to be very difficult for you to also do that in your life, and you might actually replay some of the things that you used to see. It's so crazy, guys, honestly. Like I literally remember we were going through a very difficult time as a child, because my mom, she didn't really understand the system. There were moments where bailiffs came to our house and they knocked down our door. And still, as an adult, I remember anytime I would have to pay a bill, I got to a point where it's like it would give me a panic attack. Just like picking up the bill and looking at it, it would give me a panic attack. And then I realized it all stems from the fear of what's going to happen to me if I don't. Am I going to be this? Am I going to be that? It's so important to be aware and to try and do the best that we can, especially in this society that we're currently in, which is very, very difficult to navigate at the moment. But it's important that we are aware. So I'm not going to sit here and say to you that as a single mom, things are always going to be in balance. I don't even believe in balance. I don't even think it exists for me. Sometimes there will be a part of your life where you're pouring into more than another part in your life. Sometimes you'll be pouring into your children more, and then you'll not be maybe doing your education or doing this and doing that. And then sometimes if you're doing your education, you might not be doing as great as a mother, or you might feel like you're not doing as great as a mother. But one thing I've learned is you're enough. And if you are an enough mother and you actually care, it just shows that you're, mashallah, a very good mom. And it shows that you want the best for your children. And it shows that you want to do the best that you can for them. And it's definitely important to hold yourself accountable, but then to not beat yourself up in the process as well at the same time. Because at the end of the day, there's only so much that you can do. But we can't let things like statistics and things like the hardships that are going on in this life today affect us to the point where it's like, it's making us incapacitated. It's making us unable to take care of our children, because then you're just fulfilling the same idea that is, the same statistic. You're fulfilling it. So it's important to just be aware of these things and to know that yes, mental health is on the rise, especially for children, because a lot of children are emotionally neglected. In some cases, some parents have to work to put food on the table because they're not getting paid as well. And obviously, as you know, rent is high. It's difficult out here. Of course it is. But it's important for us to be aware of it and educate ourselves about this and be understanding about the fact that, okay, I came from a country where there was this war, and the war went on for decades. My parents came from there. My grandma came from there. So obviously I must be carrying something within me that has come from the generations before. I must have anxiety or maybe stress because of this. It's very important to be aware of your pain, aware of what's going on, and to just get yourself to a place where you look at things objectively and not be tied up in emotions. But that's a process. Again, it's a process that you have to go through. But anyways, guys, I really hope you liked this topic today. Anyways, guys, inshallah, if you haven't subscribed yet, yeah, and you're watching my videos, yeah, what are you doing? Tell me. Waqsugaya. I waiting here. إلا subscribe كتابتي. Anyways, guys, if you like this topic, please click like, comment, and subscribe. Love you guys. Take care. Bye.